Rabbi Miller says, don't understand why so much writing about the Arab when everybody tried to go cell phone today.
What?
When everybody tried to go wireless, and they
Why do they need the wires?
Oh,
How about a wireless area?
yeah.
exactly
Yeah, a good idea.
good idea, but it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel there's really no need for it for me.
Yeah.
So why should I start?
Right.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. For you, there's no need.
Yeah.
People, the situation.
Building is called.
No, he's talking about the carry of the neighborhood.
Yeah, the neighborhood.
Now you have to
borrow
people.
Yeah.
Should those stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you use
The only thing I need it for
People
is a key.
People who do.
Right, unless you have to use the air. If you don't use
There's
the air.
people who do.
Yeah.
Need these.
If people hold by it, I have no problem. I
Right.
expect them like any
Yes.
other Jew.
Yes.
But the only thing I would need it for is a key. I just put it in my lobby. I just forget about it. I come back, it's there.
I can get any.
Yeah, no problem.
You give it to the doorman?
Man, yeah, he puts it in his drawer. I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about it. I'm done.
It says in Lakewood there was a guy who was alone for many years. One day he told me, sorry, that I'm gay, and I found out that I'm not really Jewish. I said, yeah, but you had missing, you Shomer Shabbos, or Goy Shomer Shabbos had missing. I said, no, I was carry a key. Yeah, but there is an arrow, so I don't hold from them.
Okay. We're holding Dav Dalet, Omid Aleph, the last 6 lines.
Which stuff?
Dav Dalet, Omid Aleph, the last 6 lines. The last 6 lines of the page.
Amichai?
Yeah, Amai Chayiv. Poshet Oni Yisyoda Amai Chayiv. The Mishnah is talking about carrying from a public to private domain and the other way around. The Mishnah set up a story that there was a poor man outside and a rich man inside, and the rich man's putting it in the poor man's hand, or the other way around. We spoke about it when we started the Mishnah, that the Meforshim say that there is a lesson to learn here from the Mishnah, that the Mishnah is trying to say that even though he is a rich man, he's a poor man, and even though the rich man wants to give the poor man a sandwich to eat, you still have to keep Shabbos. It doesn't mean that we're going to suspend the rules of Shabbos, and you can't bribe God by doing one good thing and doing another bad thing. God says you have to keep Shabbos, you have to keep Shabbos, you have to feed the hungry, you have to feed the hungry. But you can't do it by doing an Isser and Shabbos, by opening up your window and handing the sandwich from the Reshus HaYochid, the private, to the public domain. Bring him into your house, have a Shabbos meal in your house. Anyway, the Gemara will talk about something now. The Gemara will go through a very long exercise, which is, there's a rule, several rules in Shabbos when you're saying that someone is carrying from a private or public domain, or for Amos and a Reshus HaRabbi. Number 1 is what we already discussed a little bit, which is Akira Vanoch has to be picked up and put down. If he did only one, like in the Mishnah, if the guy did only 50%, then he's not chayiv. He doesn't get punished, he doesn't bring a korban. So, okay. Also, another very important rule, which the Gemara is what we'll discuss today, is that when you pick something up, it can't be hanging from the chandelier. It has to go that you picked it up from a place that's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. 1, 2, 3, 4, it's sort of a space as big as this Gemara. It has to be 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. Why? Rashi says because that means you picked it up from some place of significance. The Tosfos says,
Pick it up from the floor.
Obviously, 4 has much more than 4 tvachim and 4 tvachim. The planet Earth has much more than 4 tvachim.
Yeah.
But if you picked it up not from a table or a chair, the table or chair has to have at least 4 by 4 tvachim. Why? Several reasons that Rishonim say. How do we learn you're not allowed to carry from a private to public domain? One of the places, Al Yetzi Ishmim Koimim, we're talking about collecting the mun. So when the people would take the mun, presumably the pot that they had for the mun, they were living in a tent. They didn't have IKEA closets or fancy, you know what I mean? They had a tent. So where did they presumably put the pot? On the ground. So the ground is more than 4 tvachim. So he said, now don't pick it up. Or if we learn it from the Mishkan. So also in the Avodas the Mishkan, so when they were doing the work, so say the workers were getting string and rope and gold and silver and diamonds and copper, whatever they were working, wood. So the people in charge of the building had boxes, presumably, right? They were not just scattered on the floor, right? They were in boxes. They were organized, and they said, "Oh, what do you need? You need a pound of silver, of gold. What do you need? You need some yarn." The last 6 lines, Davdal Damadalef. So Davdal Damadalef. We're giving an introduction. We're talking about why. When you do Akida Vanocha, it has to be from a choshev, a place, which the Gemara says is 4 by 4 tvachim. So again, one thing is because we learn it from Al Yetzi Ish. You're not allowed to go get mon on Shabbos. When they went to get mon, they had a little pot in their hand, which was Asidus Eif. Oh, they had a pot. Where was the pot? On the floor of the tent. The floor of the tent has 4 by 4 tvachim. Or if we'd learn it from the Mishkan, the people working in the Mishkan said, "Oh, excuse me, sir. Reb Naftali, could you give me? I need a whole bunch of rope. I need yarn. I need a piece of gold. I need a piece of silver. I need a piece of copper." So, "Oh, what do you need?" He opened the box. They said, "How much do you need?" "You need 3 pounds here." So he picked it up. Presumably, the box was a big box, big enough that was 4 by 4, or at least it was on a table or on the ground. It's 4 by 4. So that's how we know that you have to have Akida Vanocha. And also that it has to be from a place that is choshev enough that has 4 by 4 tvachim. Let's go back into the Gemara.
Excuse me, where do we start tonight?
Tonight, 6 lines from the
Where
top.
do we start tonight?
6 lines from the bottom.
That's not where we left off last week.
That's where we left off last week.
No, we're up to Gufa. I'm telling you, I haven't marked up Mega Mark.
No, we did that last week. Gufa.
No. I'm telling you, I haven't marked up.
Gufa.
Do you have it marked up?
Or Abi? We did
Jimmy,
that
do you have it marked up Mega Mark?
Where? Gufa, Aboy, the Bibi Barabai? Well, you maybe missed last week. We saw all of
here with. Trust me. I was here.
Gufa, but no, we did till the next. We did till the 2 dot skila. Remember we did the whole
I
Tosis?
never did Tyson, but tomorrow.
I love to do that sugya again. Trust me, it's a very gishmak sugya.
So we were to go to school up there, right?
Yeah,
So that we that long Tyson. I remember.
the long Tosis in the side. That
Where's that Gemara?
the Gemara starts from Gufa, and it starts by those 2 dots and finishes by the next 2 dots. Skiva. It was right in the middle. The first word is Sheishes. So 2 dots. Poshet on is Yodi.
So we're starting from where we left off.
We're starting where we left off. Yeah.
No, I thought I came late, but I didn't come.
No. We just gave introduction.
To tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Poshet on is Yodi. The Mishnah said that the poor man put his hand into the house, or the other way around. Okay. Now that we had the introduction about the idea of Akida Vanocha and Mokum Daled, we can understand the Gemara. Gemara says, "Amai Chayev." Why would it be Chayev in the situation that the Mishnah is talking about? Well, being Akida Vanocha Mal Gabi Mokum Daled, we need 4 by 4 tvachim. The hand of a person doesn't have. You got to be Oig Malach HaBoshen to have a hand that is as big 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. Omer Rabbi. Okay, I'll skip right away to the end. The Gemara is going to say a big chidush that the person's hand is very choshev. Your hand is like a mokum dal. The Rishonim say why? Because your hand, you could do a lot with your hand. Why do you need that you pick something up from dalad, a place that's, because a table that's an eeny weeny table, that's not a choshev a place. But your hand, you could do so much with your hand.
Went from Rishus to Rishus?
It doesn't matter. Whatever you do, if there has to be Akida and Anocha, the akira has to be from a place that's four tvachim by 4 tvachim, and the noch has to be on a place.
So there are various rules. It's not just transferring from Rosh Hashanah.
Right, there's a lot of rules.
There are a whole
That's-
number of rules.
Yeah, that's why we're going through the first Pedic. They're not easy, these rules, but this is, so today we're talking about the hand, person's hand, even though my hand is 1 tefach by 1 tefach, or a little smaller, it packs a punch as if it's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. You think about this. This is, the Rashi says that Esav tried to fool his father. So he said to his father, "Keitzad ma'aser mesamelech v'sateven." He said, "Tati, when he wanted to prove that he's a big tzaddik." So he said, "Tati, how do you take meiser when you want to do it with salt?" So the Mefarshim asked, "What's the big deal? What was his question? His father should have said, dumbbell, you take a scale and you measure. If you have 10 pounds of salt, you take 1 off and 9. What was the lomdus over here? He tried to show his father that he's a big Talmid Chacham and he's a big Yoreh Shamayim, but it seems silly. What kind of
We
question?
talked about that last day in the Sikh.
So the Rebbe has a
How
more
many
ridiculous
salt you need in the, how does they told him in the chitim, you have in the aliyah.
He said, the Gemara said that you have to be ma'arev in things, the preservative, because the Gemara says that the Yireh Shamayim was oitza shel Yireh Shamayim. But Yireh Shamayim is like a person that has Yireh Shamayim, so everything else in life is preserved. It's like putting a hand. If you learn Torah, you have to put inside salt. Salt is the Yireh Shamayim. Anyway, so we see from here. So the Rebbe says that his question was a lomdasha question. Usually with things, I take 1 off and 9 for myself. I give 1 to the Levi. Give the Levi. So if I have 10 bananas, 1 banana to the Levi, and 9 bananas I keep for myself. But his question was, maybe salt is different. Because salt is so chashuv, that salt gives a tam in everything, and salt preserves everything. So maybe salt, you shouldn't look at the salt. You have to look at the koyach that the salt has. So maybe by salt you have to give more than 10%. He was asking his father, Alom de sheshayla. Because salt is, you can't eat salt. No one takes a spoon. You can eat a banana, you can eat an apple, you can eat a bread. Yeah, you can, because you can eat bread, but no one takes ever a bowl of salt with a spoon and starts eating. So his question was, the salt, you look at the salt as a salt. Okay, so 10 pounds, I give 1 to the Levi. But if you look at the koyach that it has, so maybe you should give more. And that was his discussion with his father. Okay, so the same thing here, the Rishonim say that the hand, usually you need a mokim, a chosh of a place. You pick something up from a chosh of a place, 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. But your hand, you could do so much with your hand. You could run, you could catch, you can go. Your hand is only 1 tefach by 1 tefach. But because you could do so much with your hand, the value of your hand is not really 1 tefach by 1 tefach. Your hand is as if it's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. So a very big lesson, avodas Hashem, that every Jew, the Yidden are the salt of the land. That what we do has an unbelievable effect on the world around us. More than every human being does good deeds. If a goy also, if a goy does Shabbos Yitzhara, if a goy lives a good life, he gets Olam Haba too, and he affects the world in a good place, in a good way. But when a Yid does mitzvahs, that the Eibishter Yid, the Yid, the Kechelach do mitzvahs, it's a different koyach. We accomplish an unbelievable amount in life. Okay, let's learn it. But now the Gemara, till we get to that point, that the Gemara is saying your hand is as if it's 412. Oh, the Gemara is going to go. Till the Gemara has no choice. I say, okay, Taki, you're right. The hand is like a mokum dalad al dalad tvachim. Let's read it in the Gemara again. You need to pick up and make akira and anoch in a place which is 4 by 4 tvachim. We don't need to have 4x4 tvachim. But now we learned in the Mishnah, a person he was throwing, there's a row of homes on one side of Avenue J and the other side, and he threw from one to the other. Rabbi Kiva says it's chayiv. He did a malach on Shabbos. Rabbi Kiva savar amrin kluta kamishon chadami, because it's like ori miklat with kluta. It's because it's in the space. So when it's flying through the space, it's as if it's on the ground. So we see the bottom line is that Rabbi Kiva was not concerned about it being sitting on a place which is 4x4 tvachim. So the Gemara. That the argument of Rabbi Akiva and Abana was about Kengluta Mishon Chadamia. The Terech Asar Pligin would talk in the Rishus Rabban under 10 Tvachim. Rabbi had a question. Rabbi had a question. Lamata Miyud on the 10 Tvachim Pligi. And the question was, like we just said, that Rabbi Akiva saw a Kluta Mishon Chadamia, Rabbanon Savri Lo Yamrin Kluta Mishon Chadamia. That's exactly the question. Because do you need to have it on a space of 4 to 4 tvachim or not? If it was higher than 10 tvachim, and we know that the Rishus Rabbim only goes as high as 10 tvachim. Everyone agrees potter because it doesn't matter what happens higher than 10 tvachim. And everyone agrees that whatever the rules of Moishit in the Beis Hamikdash was different. As we'll explain. Moishit. What's Moishit? So let's put it on pause. What's Moishit? Let's learn Rashi. The second Rashi on the page. Zodik me Moishit. Dilo be Moishit. Rishus Yochanan, Rishus Yochanan, Rishus Rabbi Mafil Ma'alam Yud. Kaim lo Perek Zodik. The Chayiv Diolov Ma'agolos shall need the Moshe Meshit as a Kroshim Zulazu. Then Rishus Yochanan, the Beneim Rishus Rabbi, and Veloy Zodik and Oisen Shalai Yiskalkulu. Let me explain. Sorry, we ran a little fast. We're the second Rashi here. So Rashi says, and that later in the Gemara and Daf Tzadik Vav Tzadik Zayin, we're going to talk about this, that when they dismantle the Mishkan, so they would take apart the Kroshim, right? The Kroshim have to go on the Hagolos. So there is a couple of Vim standing there on the ground, and they're taking apart the Kroshim, and there's a couple of Vim standing on the Hagolos, and they hand the Kroshim to the Hagolos. Now, there were more than one Agola, so sometimes you have to organize it. So the Alavim would be passing from one Agola to the other Agola. The Gemara says that these Agolas, on average, were at least 10 Tvachim high from the ground. It's not that hard to be 10 Tvachim. The wheels, they didn't have Michelin tires. So, they had bigger tires, Mistama. And so bottom line is that those agolos were 10 tvachim or higher than the ground. So there were, we think of a car is takalamata masara tvachim. If it's a regular sedan, even the top of the car, even the roof could be lamata masara tvachim. But those pickup trucks that they were using for the agolos were with big wheels, big, high. And they were high. They were 10 tvachim from the ground, so that the Levium would be passing from the floor to the Agola, and from one Agola to the next Agola. Now, the Agola is 10 tvachim high. It's a Rishus HaYochid.
We're assuming a tefach is about 6 inches.
However however big it is. So, but 10 tvachim is a certain height. I mean, right? I'm just saying that to think of it, it's not like a regular car. These Agolas were big.
Maybe like a SUV.
Yeah, they were like super SUVs.
Yeah,
The big pickup truck.
Yeah, they were big trucks.
Pickup truck,
Right. Yeah, moving truck is l'mayla masara tvachim. So that now the Gemara says. So bottom line was, so they were taking from one wagon, passing kroshim to the other wagon. The Rashi says here, obviously they were not throwing it because Rashi says you'll ruin it. You're not going to start throwing. Who throws? Besides,
Very
hektish,
heavy.
it's heavy. Over there, Rashi says daf. It's interesting. Rashi in daf Tzadik Zayin says it because it's heavy. Here he says shlois kalkulu. Whatever. Never mind the lumdus. All the reasons are true. They're not going to throw it. It's hektish.
Right.
It's shlois kalkulu. Anyway, you can throw it if you would like. They're very heavy. Rashi and they coived on it's heavy. Okay, so they would be passing it gently. So the Gemara says. So here we learn that a person that there is two reshus hayochid, and say it's not like like E17 or J, where today in America we have wide streets, but in the mall in Europe or in the Shtetl, they had narrow spaces. So say a person is in a porch from this side and on a shusayach, and he's on this guy, and he wants to hand him over something. So he'll say, look, we're standing higher than 10 tvachim. So the Rabbim only goes 10 tvachim high. So the Gemara says you're not allowed to, because this is what we learn from the wagons in the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan, that they were both Rishus HaYochid, and they would be passing the kroshim one from the other. And all the Lamatas Malachis we learn from the Mishkan. You're not allowed to do that. So you're not allowed to do that. Now the discussion.
If it's above a certain height, where's the problem?
That's the problem, because that's what they did in even though the Rishus HaRabim expired, but you're over this, you're in the ear, you're on top of Rishus HaRabim. So even though it's not really Rishus HaRabim, not allowed to. That's the din, and it's one of the Lamatas Malachis. It's Chelak Aveitzah. Okay, that's the sugya later in Daf Tzadik Vav Tzadik Zayin.
Interesting.
So here the Gemara asks an interesting question. So one way of saying is, true, they didn't throw the kroshim, but why didn't they throw the kroshim? Because they were too heavy. You couldn't if you wanted to. So, but theoretically, if they were light, the kroshim, maybe they would throw it. And anyway, what's the difference between throwing or handing something over? It's the same thing. So if you're not allowed to do one, you're not allowed to do the other. And this is what the Gemara is going to ask. Do we say that throwing and handing over is the same thing? If you're not allowed to do one, you're not allowed to do the other. Or we say no, you're not allowed to do exactly. This is a chidush. Really, it's not a shusarama. They wouldn't do moishit. They wouldn't hand. You're not allowed to hand something to your friend. If you want to throw it is different. Menatoid, it's mutter. Okay, this is what we're going to discuss here. So the second way of learning it, oy dilma, is the other way of learning the machlokes of Chamer Bakiva is Lamaila me asora pligi. It's talking higher than 10 tvach. And this was the machlokes. The Bakiva savar yalfin zerek mi Moshe. That we say zerek Moshe zerek. It's the same thing. So if one is also, the other one is also. But Rabbanan Savri, no, lo yalfin and zerek mi Moshe. We don't learn one from the other. It's a chidush, and therefore, whatever happened in the Mishkan, that's what you're not allowed to do. The fact is that they didn't throw the kroshim; they only would hand it. So that's what you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to hand it from one porch to the other porch. But the throwing is different, and that's the machlokes. The throwing you're allowed to. So that's the machlokes of Rabbi Akiva and Chachamim.
Why would it be different?
Why would it be different? Because you could say, look, it's not a Rishus HaRabim really. It's a big chiddush. So whatever the Levium did, that's called a malacha. We're not allowed to do. And they used to hand it. They never threw it. So if I'm going to hand something from one porch to another porch, that's also. But that's chayav chatas. But if I throw it, it's different. And that's the machlokes of Rabbi Akiva Chachamim. Avlamata ma'asara divra kol chayav.
Who said right away that throwing would be okay then?
No, this is there was a machlokes about between Rabbi Akiva and Chachamim. What was the machlokes? If something passed from a shusay yochid to a shusay yochid and a shusay rabim in be'emtza, Rabbi Akiva said chayav, Chacham said potter. So Rabbi asked, where was the machlokes? Was the machlokes under 10 tvachim? And the question essentially was, if you needed to rest on a mokim, dal, yes or no, and that was the machlokes Chacham Rabbi Akiva, or was it that it was higher than 10 tvachim? And if you would be Moshe, they both agreed that it's chayiv. It's also to do it if he did his chayiv chatas. But since over here he's not being Moshe, he's only being Zoydek, so the machlokes could compare Moshe to Zoydek, one to the other. That was the doubt that Rabbi once had. So the Gemara is saying
Anyway, Malcolm down is right?
well, this was part of the suffix. Maybe once he's saying, well, maybe that was the machlokes of Chachamim and the Rebbe Akiva. He threw it lamata masora. The question is, does it have to sit on a mokum dal? And Rabbi Akiva says it doesn't have to. It's fine. It was here in the rishus. It's good enough. It doesn't have to sit in a mokum dal, and therefore he's chayiv. Chacham said it's potter because it has to sit in a mokum dal. And that was one side of what Rabbi. Then Rabbi said, no. Maybe that everyone agrees that kluta k'mishahuncha. Maybe the shaila was higher than 10 tvachim, and do we compare Zaydik to Moshe? So the Gemara says, you see that Rabbi was not clear about this. So all of a sudden, when we came to our Mishnah, he seems like he's clear. The Gemara is going to say, Taka, he wasn't clear, and then he was clear about it. That's what the Gemara is going to say. The Gemara says, Taka, he had a doubt. What was the pshat of the machlokes of Rabbi Akiva and Chachamim? But then it became clear to him. The Savar Rabbi Akiva Klut Kamishon Chadamer. That Rabbi Akiva holds that Klut Kamishon Chacham disagree, and therefore he said that our Mishnah is like Rabbi Akiva, that you don't need to have Akira Vanocha sitting on a Mokum Dalad Al Dalad. Okay.
What do you need?
That should just be go into that rishus. Should be in the rishus. If it's like a rishus Ram, has to be
from one rishus to another.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. We don't pass in that way, but that's the thinking of Rabbi Akiva. That's shita Rabbi Akiva. The Gemara says, wait a minute. Even Rabbi Akiva, you're overreaching in how you're reading Rabbi Akiva. Dilma hanocha hu delabaya. Maybe Rabbi Akiva doesn't care about hanocha. Akida boya. Maybe when it comes to Akida, he does care that you have to pick it up from a makam dal dalat. Adachi says, the Dilma hanocha delabaya. Mediktoni Rabbi Akiva Machayev. Aval Akida boy mal gabi mokum dav. Medloktoni Rabbi Akiva Machayev shtayim achas mishumetzav achas shumachnasa. Rabbi Akiva said that the person that threw something and it went through the Rishus Haram is chayev. Chayev sounds one time. If you're going to say that both Akida and Anocha don't need to have a mokum dalad, so why shouldn't we chayev double? It went from Rishus Hayachid to Rishus Harabim. Okay, strike one.
I would think you did one ma'isa, so you'd be chayav one.
If a person does,
if I do one ma'isa, if I eat one,
yeah, if I do
one ma'isa, I get one avera. I don't get
no. There's ein iser halal iser, but if the iser is bevas achas, you do sin. You could do one ma'isa. Like the Gemara always all over Shas. Yesh oichet shchita achas v'chayev aleh shisha malkias. Yesh oichel achila achas v'chayev aleh shemoina. He ate this as in Yom Kippur, and the Gemara figures out this guy in order to be chayev 8 times malchus, the guy has to be a massive Talmud Chacham. Has to be a massive Talmud Chacham, and he doesn't care to chew bugs. But what
I mean is, I did one ma'isa. It has 2 parts. It has I threw it, so
what? I did one ma'isa. It went now from
it's
2 parts to it.
Parts, but where do you see that each part would get its own set of malchus? That's what I'm.
Because
why not?
Again, kilo by itself is not good.
He did.
Is not good.
So the 2 parts combined, become one avera. That's what I'm thinking.
No, he went from a reshus hayochid into reshus harabah. And if you don't hold that there has to be Akira Vanoch and a Mokum Dal.
Well, then, but on the other hand, if I throw something in a Rishus Harachah like this room, I can do that all day because I didn't Akira, but without the Anacha. You did. So I need both parts.
It doesn't matter how you learn it. You could learn it. You did Akira and Anacha. It's in a Rishus Yochid. You're allowed to do it. It's not a problem. Let's learn a little Toisus over here.
And it's also
so we can say that we did a Toisus today. Dilma Anocha hu delavoy Akira boy. Pirish Rashi the daik from the law machayev shnayim achas mishmatzov achas shmachnosa. The kosher Dilma had the law machayev beis. Tosis is going to ask a question, but not exactly your question. Dilma hodula machayev beis mishum de machayev atulda b'makam av. That you never, when a person does a tulda and have the same, it's very similar to your question. It's the same thing. Void the besamach kam Rabbi Yehudim chayev Rabbi beis af b'diktoni stam Rabbi machayev machanam Rabbi kivim and nolan de machayev shtayim. Maybe take he said chayev he meant shtayim. Like the Gemara says later, chayev, and the Gemara tied to is chayev means shtayim. And here lafadish the porich hakira in boy the alfinim a mishkat shenoitla metebosen shoya bo arba arba v'noisli liyad oise hamalocha. That there's a svara to say that there's a difference between akida and anacha, because we're learning all the malachas from the Mishkan, and the Mishkan it was clear whenever they made an akida it came from a choshev place. There was a box they didn't, things were not thrown apart. When the people, the Oisei Malacha came and said, could you please give me a pound or 2 pounds of gold, a pound or 2 pounds of silver, there was a box, but when the people got it and they worked, their hands, the table, maybe they had a little workspace, you don't know. It's not so clear. So it's conceivable that the Akiva held that Akida Taka, you need from a Choshev place, but Anocha, I don't care. So the fact that Rabbi Akiva said Chayev, okay, because Rabbi Akiva didn't care about where the Hanocha happens, but Akida maybe Rabbi Akiva cares that there has to be a Mokum, and from our Mishnah it's Mashma that I don't care the Akida, I don't care the Hanocha, because sometimes it's from his hand, sometimes Akida, sometimes Hanocha, sometimes the Oni, sometimes Elo Amar Rabbi Yosef. So the first way is slugged up. Elo Amar Rabbi Yosef Amani, we were one down. One shot down. We have another 6 to go. Elo Amar Rabbi Yosef Hamani Rebbe. That's the Rebbe. Hey Rebbe, the Gemara says. Ilaima ha Rebbe the Tanya. We learned in the Brayse. Zorek v'noch al gabi ziz kol shu. Person threw, and it's at this point in the Gemara we think that there's a little hook sticking out from my house, and it landed on the hook. So Rebbe Mechayv Chom Poiter. So it sounds over there like there isn't the hook, a little hook. How big is a hook? There's no 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. And we see again there's a machloikis. Rebbe says you don't need to have a makom dal dalad. So come on. That Brais Gemara is later going to explain. Kedabaya, like Abaya explained. Damar Abaya said, this is talking about the trunk is in one, and then the branches are sticking out, and the branches in the Rishus Harab, it fell on. He threw something. It fell on the branch. The Rebbe says that true, the branch doesn't have 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, but the branch belongs to a big fat tree that the tree does have 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. So it's as if it landed on 4 to 4 tvachim.
Even though the
no, that's not the ikar over here. The word is not. The word is the shadin. If we say shadin and noifay basa ikar, that's the main thing. The point is that the Gemara wanted to say that the machloikus of here is if you need to have akida v'anoch on a place with dal. It says no. We're talking about a big fat tree that has dal, and your little small branch that doesn't have dal. And now it landed on the branch, right? Should we say, oh, it landed on a branch? No, there's no dal, or we should say, oh, no, but the tree had dal, and that's the machloikis. But really, everyone agrees that in principle you need to have a mokim dal. So that's not going to help us for our Mishnah. Ella Horebi. Okay, 2 down. Another pshat down. Ella Horebi. The Tanya Zorak Mirishus Aram Yochid Be'emtza. Similar to what we were saying before. There's a Rishus Aram. But here it's fakert. It's a Rishus Aram, and a Yochid in between. Rabbi Mechayv Chomem Poiter. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. He explained when Rabbi said Mechayev Rabbi Shtayim. That Rabbi was Mechayev two times achatas. Achas mishum itzav, achas mishum achnasa. Oh, he really didn't care about a makom dal. And he said that you did 2 malachas over here. you did Eitzon, you did Achnasa. Al Malay Boy, Akida, Veloy Anoch, Al Gabe Mokim, Dalad.
Maybe over there, because you went from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, that's one Avera, and then Rosh Hashanah back to Rosh Hashanah, that's another Avera.
Okay, bottom line. So we
That's a
see.
different set of facts.
So we see that he didn't care about Anocha on a place of Dal. That's the bottom line.
I carried that around anyways. I don't need a clear enough on Makasha.
Well, over here we're talking about maybe there was not Dal Damas. It was he threw it, and there wasn't Dal Damas. If it would have been Dal Damas, probably in that space that he threw it, it would have been Chai 3. It would have been Chai 3.
There's just in the middle, but it's too room. It's not Dalam.
Yeah.
If he threw it from the edge of the Rosh Hashanah,
If it would have went Dal Damas, it would have said Taka. If it went flying, it would have said 3. That Rav Shmuel Damet Havayu, that Rav Shmuel both said, but there's a different story. It's talking about that it went flying through Rishus HaYochid. What kind of Rishus HaYochid? Oh, the Amrinim Beisa Kamanda Malya Damya. Whenever there is 4 walls, and also Rashi says Kamanda Malya Dovas also Mekol Tzad have a Kamola Chafetzim Ad Gange. The Ein Avir Choshev Avir Hilkach Kol Anizik Latoich have a Kemunach. Because a little bit, but just balabatish. Never mind lomdish, because this is like when you have something that has 4 walls and a ceiling. So you can go now to IKEA, or you can go to the store here over there, a hardware store. You buy like these 2 white strips. You take a few screws, you put in the wall, and you put 10 shelves from the floor till the ceiling. It's a protected space, So any space that I see that's from the floor to the ceiling, Beisa Kamandamal Yadamya. This is all a protected place. This is all, so it's as if it's already sitting on a shelf. We make believe right now there's a shelf under this chayfetz, but we don't say that in the Rishus HaRabim. We only say that in the Rishus HaYochid. So back in our Mishnah is talking about also Rishus HaRabim. Kidav Anoch, one guy is standing in the house. Oni and an Osher, the Osher is standing in a Rishus HaYochid, and the Oni is standing in Rishus HaRabim. So he's saying, don't bring me this story, this machloikis over here is a different story. Okay. Rabbi and Chachamim is a different story. Again, Loi Machayev Rabbi, Ela B'Rishus HaYochid Mekura. That there was Rishus HaYochid with the roof. Amrina Meisa Kamanda Mal Yadamya. Aval She'ena Mekura. If there wasn't a roof, Loi.
There's no walls, right?
No walls. That actually says.
So what make it?
No, it was a window. No, it was a window. It was a window.
What make the?
And there was a Oimid Muravel. Part is probably whatever. It's good enough that the walls still have a din of walls.
If it has no roof, what make it? Rishus HaYochid?
No, it's Shayach. No, you could have a Rishus HaYochid could be, as we'll say in a minute in the Gemara, that a person has a stick that's a 10 tefachim high, and on top of that he puts a basket. And the basket is 4x4. That's already Rishus HaYochid, even though there's no walls. But over there, we don't say Beisa Kamandamal Yadamya. Over there, you'll have to say that if you make Akira Vanocha, it has to actually go into the basket and touch the basket. Shenkin, if there's 4 walls and a ceiling, even though it's flying right now, we say it looks to you like it's flying.
Yeah,
But every second, it's like still shots. Every second that it's it's munach al gabe, it's a madaf, it's as if it's on something. And that's the machloikis of Rabbi and Chacham. Loi machayv Rabbi b'Rishus HaYochid Mekura. Damarim basically mandavar yadame. Aval sheina Mekura loi. V'chitayim, and you're going to tell me that you want to apply to our Mishnah, Hachanam in our Mishnah b'Mekura, that our Mishnah is talking about there is a roof over his head. So Hatenach b'Rishus HaYochid Mekura, I understand if you want to tell me Rishus HaYochid has a roof over my head. But Rishus HaRabim Mekura Michayev. If there is a Rishus HaRabim with a roof, how could you be Mechayev me? Amar Shmuel Bar Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rabbi Huna, Amar Rav. That the din is that Rav said Hamave Chayfetz Dal Damas Rishus HaRabim Mekura Potter. That if the Rishus HaRabim has a roof over it, you're Potter. Lafisha Eina Doim Ratazoy. Lafisha Eina. Not because Rishus HaYochid, it's not Mamash Rishus HaYochid, it's a complicated Rishus. We'll get to it soon in Davov, like those public places that have a roof over it. But but essentially it is. It's not a Rishus Harabim. It's not a Rishus Harabim. So therefore, don't bring me the story. So this is 3 down. This pshat is again a pshat. So don't bring me the story of the machloikis of Rabbi and Chacham. El Omer Reb Zera, 4th pshat. Hamani acherim. Our Mishnah is the acherim. The Tanya will not nabraisam. Acherim oimrim omed b'mkoimei v'kibel. A person he threw a ball to you, and you stood in your place, and you were makabel the ball in your hand. So then the person that threw the ball to you is chayiv to bring a korban chatas. But if I ran towards the ball and I grabbed the ball, it's potter. Why? Because the person that threw it only did 50% of the malacha. He did the akida, but he did that. I didn't. I interfered and I made the anach, not him. So let's go back. If he stood and he was makabel, the ball is chayiv. We see from this brayso, we don't need to have 4x4. So the Gemara says, okay, you're right, but back to our original question. Maybe only about that nocho akida yebaina. And then if I want, the Gemara says for argument's sake, I could chisel away at you. Maybe in this case it's talking about that he took his shirt and he wrapped it and it was big and he put his kapot and he put it out and it really was 4x4 tvachim. Okay, a 5th pshat zog the Gemara. Amre Baba mas nissen. Our Mishnah, I'll tell you the pshat in our Mishnah. Kegoin and she kibel betraskel v'nichal ga betraskel. The ikenami anocha that is talking about. Our Mishnah is talking about that he had a basket in his hand, and the basket was a big basket. It was 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. So the Gemara is now going to go through the whole pilpul over here, and this in the fifth pshat. What do you mean? A traskel is only going to help you in the Rishus HaYachid to make that the Mokim has now a chashivas of Dal Dal. But if you really had a traskel on a Rishus HaRabim, that will ruin the Rishus HaRabim. If you take a stick and you dig it into the ground of Rishus HaRabim, and on top of the stick you glue on a traskel, a basket. Zorek v'nochal gabe, if you threw something into the basket, chayiv because you threw it from Rishus HaRabim into Rishus HaYachid.
The Mishnah is talking about an Ani who's holding a basket.
Yeah, the Gemara.
So he's carrying.
It came down from the heaven. It came down from heaven. That's what the Gemara is later going to say, that this is a little, you're starting to get a little ridiculous over here. But at this point, the Gemara is trying to give
he's carrying a bat, so
it came from the sky.
Oh,
he was there. Yeah, it was there by Nashmachas. Again, later the Gemara is going to say all these things. Come on, the Mishnah is not talking. The Gemara Taka then is going to capitulate. They're going to say you're right.
There is no
That your hand really has a chshivas a makom dal. But the Gemara is trying to exhaust every option till we get there. So the Gemara says, no, maybe he's talking about that he has a basket in his hand. Okay, so let's figure it out. In a Rishus HaYachid, I understand I can hold a basket. Rishus HaRabim,
you're not moving, so I retract what I said. You're standing in the Rishus HaRabim, and like
that's what someone was just saying. That you stood in there from before Shabbos. And you went, yeah, right,
moving.
Right.
you didn't do that.
Yeah,
No.
There's no prior isser.
There was no prior isser. Dikir be a pasha. By the way, I said the lachutz nas lechiyad shlona. My chayv. Rishus HaRabim. You have to Rishus HaYachid. Gemaf. Gemaf. Feel the time Rabbi Yehuda. We agree with Reis of Yehuda. If you had a basket in a Rishus HaRabim and it's higher than 10 tefachim, it turns into a Rishus HaYachid. Haskem mamaylam yud, hachel lamatam yud. He held the basket lower than 10 tvachim. Kashler Rabbi. So the Gemara says, I still don't understand the pshat of Rabbi. Miktoni traskel shebeyoda. Is the Mishnah talking about a traskel that he's holding a basket? Well, yodik toni. The Mishnah is talking about poshet. Balabai says yodai. Poshet oni is yodai. You're throwing in a basket. The Mishkan never had a basket. You're throwing in the wrong item. The Mishnah is not talking about a basket. You're talking about the hand. Elom Rababo. Pshat number 6. Kegoen sheshil shel yodei lamata megimel v'kibla. So Gemara v'oimet ktoni. B'shoy, he's that he his hand is within 3 tvachim to the ground, and because there's a din of lavud, so whatever is within 3 tvachim of the ground is as if it's already on the ground. So it's already have a mokum. Yeah, it's a and it's like a dal. It's the Gemara.
Even though his hand is higher than the.
No, he's talking that he's standing like this, like
Bent down,
he went
bent
low.
down with his hand to-
Yeah. And in order to make the Mishnah work, he was standing like like this. Yeah. And then the Gemara
That
says,
would mean that the Balabayas is also going to bend down to hand it to him who's so low. I mean, the whole thing
right.
is
If
far-fetched.
it miktani traskal, yodik tani. Elo marav shel shel mata megimol kibla. Va'omet tani. B'shoich. V'boy sema begumi standing in a pit. He's standing in a pit. V'boy sema bananas. He's very short, and his hand ends up being. I mean, talking about real midget. They're less than 3 tvachim on the ground. Amarava, come on. So this last shot number 6, Rabbi says, "Give me a break." Ich poltana leshpin kol hani. That the Tana was went out of his way.
He learned the birth.
Yeah,
We're becoming a basket case. not a
exactly.
basket.
The Mishnah became a basket case. You want to, okay. The Mishnah is trying to describe a normal case. There's a rich man. There's a Ponai is telling me he's a midget. He's such a midget. He's standing in a pit. Come on, the Mishnah is not talking about such cases. Elo Marova, that after the 6th pshat, the Gemara slugs them all up. Yoda shalodam chshuv v'loy kedalat al dalat. Person's hand has the chashivas of 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. Think also Rav in Amar Rabbi Yochanan. That when Oven came to Bavel from Eretz Yisrael, he brought with him a memra in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. The person's hand has a moedik chashivus, and the chashivus is like dal. And that's the bottom line, and that's really the pshat. That's what the Gemara now accepts, and that's the halacha. That's the pshat in the Mishnah. Usually, when you make a kira v'anocha, you have to take it from a choshev place that's 4 by 4 tvachim. But your hand, it's like salt. Your hand is something, certain chashivas in your hand, that your hand, there's so much you could do with your hand, that your hand has a chashivas as if it's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. Your hand is...
That's why also we say if somebody went 2,000 Omer, what do you do next steps? So the 4 amas around him, that's his.
There's 4 amas of a person, and also there's certain
There's 4
chashivas of his
amas in
hand. But that's amas, here's tvachim.
Fine,
And there's a concept that is a certain chashivas that my hand has an unbelievable thing. Someone mentioned about last week's sugya. So last week was a very geshmak sugya. We spoke about and emesis. There was another toisus that I wanted to do, but we just do have to move sometimes in the Gemara. But I just want to share something interesting. So I was learning the sugya last week, and I see that there is. I'm looking at that there is 3 long tshuvas in Digras Moshe to Reb Shimon Trebnik, who's the Rav in Hadich, and the date is Tofresh Pei Zayin, 1927.
Wow.
So both are in Gehakta Herring right now. Reb Moshe is in Yuban, and this guy is a Rav in Hadich. They're both.
That's where the Rebbe is.
The Mittel Rebbe is buried. The Mittel Rebbe is buried there.
He was very young.
Yeah.
Where
And they're arguing about the sugya. It's a very geschmack, 3 tshuvas back and forth. He's asking the pshat and the toises. We did last week for Chiyamim and the next toises. And they're arguing back and forth of the pshat and toises. So I was thinking to myself, like Rabbanu Shalom, both of the Moshe probably didn't have what to eat. Moshe didn't have what to eat. The Moshe didn't want that Chasron people should suffer for him. And the government said if you're taking from the community, then you're a parasite. So I'm not taking anything from the community. So he was, but mine Yerek Zechai, how did he live? It was very, very difficult life when he was in Russia, but in that time. So, and what are 2 people doing? So he writes about it. He's writing a letter. Like, I'm having a big problem. Can you help me out? Verstehen Tosfos and Kodim Shiyavel the Skila. So firstly, it's now an interesting thing that we're talking about the sugya of Chatei Kadesh Izak Chaverecha. Moshe was not a what's it called type of person. I'm just saying it's like funny. Ashgacha brought this that they were both a little bit suffering in order to help all the Yid. That they were a little pilpling in the sugya of Chatei Kadesh Izak Chaverecha. That you should a little bit maybe do something that's not good for you, Beruchnis, in order to help another Yid. Anyway, that's the sugya they're talking about. So help Davish. I was just in Eretz Yisrael, and someone gave me this book that he published from First Rav in Kfar Chabad. So in the back, I'm reading it, and I say to myself, "Oh wow!" In the back, he has a chapter that Rav Garelak had a son-in-law, took him over for some time. And he was a Rav Trebnik. So this Trebnik we're talking about. So anyway, a few interesting stories there. Yeah. So he was a Talmud of Chofetz Chaim, Reb Naftali Trop, Reb Shimon and Reb Nochem Trebnik. So but the Iron Curtain fell, and so they became Lubavitch Chassidim. So and then he became a Rav, and anyway. So one of the things. One of the things, it's a few very interesting stories, but just a story that you see a beautiful thing. Trebnik said that he was a Rav, and he also worked on a thing called Teferes Bachurim, Tafke with my Eltazayda, Shem Yinkem Damai, that they try to be Makarab young the college students, Chabad on campus. It was less fancy than today Chabad on campus, but they used to make Shiurei Torah with young intellectual students. So listens and Aid, even though they were live dafka of Shem Shabbos and this, but to keep a bissel Yiddishkeit. In the Soviet Union, they had a thing called Tiferes Bachurim.
How could they do that?
They did it. I'm just telling you, that was the fact. They used to find these young kids, and they used to learn with them. Chavrusa.
No, but in Harding.
In Harding, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they caught him. So they gave him punishment, 10 years of hard labor. And he said that and he was lucky, he got out after 5 years. But he realized that that saved his life, because he was a young man, and all the other young people he knew were drafted to the army, and no one came back. I mean, Russia, the amount of soldiers they lost to the Germans. Well, he said because he suffered because of being a Mephitz Torah. So Taka, he was 5 years in the gulags, but that saved his life. Okay, David Shalhalfen, that we should see that everything that we do in the Achotzas HaTorah and the Arbotz HaTorah we do, that we should see that the koyach that we have in our hand is not only one tefach. We can throw a punch that's 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. We got up to Daf Hey Amud Aleph, and it's basically towards the end of the page. It's the first word of the line is
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Before the big line.
Yeah.
Two lines before the big line. No, a little more. Want to be a chazan.
Okay, let's get straight to the Gemara.
Rabbi,